One day your life will end, and on that day, when your brain starts floating away to the great beyond and everything flashes before your eyes in Blu-ray, do you know what you're going to see? Every moment you spent begging people to love you while you treated yourself like a grasshopper. That's the part nobody wants to talk about. You've been walking around with a "kick me" sign on your forehead, except you're the one who put it there. You call it being humble, being selfless, being a good person. But let's call it what it actually is. You've been committing slow-motion self-betrayal by 1,000 compromises, and you're so used to the bleeding that you don't even notice anymore. I'm not here to hold your hand. I'm here to slap the phone out of it so you can see what you've been doing to yourself. And if you're watching from Lagos, London, Los Angeles, or literally anywhere else on this planet, drop your location in the comments right now. I want to see exactly how far this wake-up call is traveling, because what I'm about to break down works whether you're in a penthouse or a basement. Before we rip the band-aid off, smash that like button with intention, because you're about to get uncomfortable, and that like button is your first act of commitment to actually finishing what you started. Subscribe too, because the algorithm gods demand sacrifice, and more importantly, you're going to need these reminders when you inevitably backslide into your old patterns like the predictable creature of habit that you currently are. 1. You're terrified of your own company because you know what you'll find there. Let me guess. Before this, you had music playing, or a video in the background, or some social media engagement going on. And you're ready to launch back into it the second this gets slightly uncomfortable. You can't sit in silence for 15 seconds without your brain launching into full-blown panic mode. You know why? Because silence means you have to meet face to face with yourself, and you've spent years making sure that meeting never happens. Epictetus used to sit alone in complete darkness, forcing himself to confront every demon, every excuse, every lie he'd been telling himself. Not because he was a masochist, but because he understood something your therapist is too polite to tell you. If you can't stand being alone with yourself, you're basically advertising that even you think you're insufferable company. Think about what that does to every relationship you touch. You don't enter connections, you invade them. You attach yourself to people like a barnacle on a sinking ship, desperately hoping their presence will fill the void you refuse to acknowledge exists. You're not in love. You're in escape mode. You don't want a partner. You want a distraction with a pulse. The brutal shift happens when you start treating solitude like medicine instead of punishment. Take yourself to dinner. Sit there without scrolling like your thumbs are having a seizure. Walk without podcasts cramming other people's thoughts into your skull. And when that discomfort rises, and it will rise like vomit after bad sushi, don't you dare reach for your phone. Shut it down. Marcus Aurelius would often remind himself that nowhere you can go is more peaceful than your own mind. Yeah, well, that's only true if your mind isn't a dumpster fire of unprocessed trauma and recycled excuses. Right now, your internal landscape looks like a crime scene, and it is time to clean it up. One of the points coming is going to expose your phone addiction for what it really is, and you're not ready for that conversation. But keep watching. 2. Every broken promise to yourself is a vote for the person you hate becoming. You set your alarm for 6 a.m., you wake up at 7:30, you promise you'll start the diet on Monday. 6 Mondays pass. You swear you'll stop talking to that person who treats you like a backup plan. They text, and you respond within 40 seconds like an automated welcome email. You know what you're doing? You're running an election in your own mind, and self-doubt is winning by a landslide because you keep voting for it with every broken promise. Seneca refused to make commitments he couldn't keep, even tiny ones, because he understood that integrity isn't built in boardrooms or battlefields. It's built in the 6 a.m. darkness when nobody's watching and you choose to get up anyway. It's built in the moment you said you'd do one push-up and you do it even though your brain is screaming that it doesn't matter. It matters. Every single time. Your confidence isn't low because life kicked your teeth in. Your confidence is low because you keep kicking your own teeth in by proving to yourself daily that your word means absolutely nothing. You wouldn't tolerate this from a friend. You'd cut them off faster than a bad haircut. But you do it to yourself and call it being realistic. Here's your surgical intervention. Pick one promise, not 10, one. I will make my bed every morning for 7 days. That's it. No additional goals, no life overhaul, no vision board BS. Just prove to yourself that when you say something will happen, it happens, period. Because self-love isn't built on affirmations, it's built on evidence, and right now, all your evidence points to you being unreliable. Change the data, change the belief. Comment below and tell me, what's the one promise you keep breaking to yourself? And don't lie, I can smell a cop-out from here. 3. Your boundaries are suggestions and everyone's ignoring them. You don't have boundaries. You have loose guidelines that you violate the second someone raises their voice or guilt trips you with the "I thought we were friends" card. You say, "I need space," then answer calls at 2 a.m. You say, "I can't help right now," then show up anyway, resentful and exhausted, wondering why everyone takes advantage of you. They take advantage because you taught them how. Epictetus would train his students to say no repeatedly until the word stopped feeling like a betrayal. He knew that every time you say yes when you mean no, you're not being kind. You're committing violence against yourself. Small violence, sure, but death by 1,000 cuts is still death. The people who get angry when you finally set a boundary, those are exactly the people who were benefiting from you not having any. They're not mad that you changed. They're mad that the free ride ended. And your guilt? That's just outdated programming from people who needed you weak to feel powerful. Real boundary setting sounds like this. I'm not available after 9 p.m. No explanation, no apology tour, no dissertation defending your basic human need for rest, just a statement of fact. And when they push back, because they absolutely will, you repeat it. Same words, same tone, like a brick wall that just learned to speak. The first time you do this, you'll feel like you're being unreasonable. That feeling is your conditioning dying. Let it die, because on the other side of that discomfort is a version of you that people respect instead of drain. And here's the part that'll blow your mind. The people who truly care about you will adjust. They'll respect the boundary and find new ways to connect that don't require you to bleed yourself dry. The ones who throw tantrums and disappear, they were never in it for you. They were in it for what they could extract. There's a point about your phone habits coming that's going to piss you off. Good. You need to be pissed off. 4. You're addicted to being needed because you don't feel worthy of being wanted. Oh, this one's going to sting like antiseptic on an open wound. You're everyone's emotional support human. The 3 a.m. hotline, the free therapist, the emergency contact for people who don't even remember your birthday, and you do it with a smile, convincing yourself it's because you're compassionate. It's not compassion, it's addiction. You're hooked on being needed because somewhere along the way you decided that usefulness equates to importance. If you're not solving someone's problem, you're irrelevant. If you're not available 24/7, you're disposable, so you sacrifice your sleep, your peace, your mental health, all to maintain the high of feeling necessary. Marcus Aurelius would often remind himself that just because someone asks doesn't mean you must answer. But you never learned that lesson. Your availability isn't a virtue. It's a symptom of not believing you matter unless you're useful. Here's the cold shower. People don't respect martyrs, they use them. And the second you stop being useful, they'll ghost you faster than a bad Tinder date. You're not building relationships, you're building dependencies. And when those dependencies end, and they will, you'll realize you spent years investing in bonds that were never about you. The difference between being needed and being valued. Being needed is conditional. I'll keep you around as long as you solve my problems. Being valued is essential. I want you here regardless of what you do for me. Start the pullback, not dramatically, Don't nuke your entire social circle like a scorched earth policy. Just quietly. Stop answering texts within 30 seconds. Stop volunteering for problems that aren't yours. Create space and watch what happens. Some people will respect it and adjust. Others will have emotional meltdowns because they'll think to themselves, how dare you have boundaries? Let them melt. They were only there for the free labor anyway. Seneca said we're not given a short life. We waste most of it. You're wasting yours being a vending machine for people who wouldn't refill you if you were empty. Stop. Right now. Today. If this is landing like a gut punch, hit that like button, and if you're finally ready to stop playing therapist to people who don't even ask how you're doing, subscribe. The next points will build on this, and skipping them would be self-sabotage. 5. The voice in your head is a pathological liar, yet you keep promoting it. Your inner critic has you convinced it's protecting you. It says, don't try because you might fail. It says, you're not ready when ready is a myth. It says, who do you think you are when you dare to want something bigger? And you believe it. You believe it like it's the scriptures, whereas it's just recycling trauma. That voice isn't you. It's a greatest hits album of every person who doubted you, every failure you've internalized, every piece of social conditioning you've swallowed without chewing. And you gave it a permanent microphone and corner office in your brain. Epictetus taught that you have power over your mind, not outside events. But most people never realize they have power over the voice inside their skull that's been running a dictatorship since childhood. Here's your counterattack. Treat that voice like a hostile witness in court. When it says, you can't, you respond with, based on what evidence? When it says, you'll embarrass yourself, you ask, and then what happens? I survive, learn, and improve. Strip away the emotional manipulation and force it to defend its claims. Most of the time it can't. It's just fear wearing a lab coat and pretending to be logical. But challenging these notions isn't enough. You need replacement. Every time you catch yourself in negative self-talk, deliberately reframe. Not with delusional positivity. I'm not asking you to gaslight yourself, but with accurate, constructive alternatives. I mess this up becomes I'm learning what doesn't work. I'm terrible at this becomes I'm at the beginning, and beginners are supposed to struggle. Your inner critic is just one opinion, a loud one that's been unchallenged for years. Time to challenge it. Time to dethrone it. Time to remind it that it's not the president, it's a squatter you're finally evicting out of the room. Point 7 is going to make you rethink everyone you're currently tolerating, but we're getting there soon. 6. You're clinging to people who wouldn't cross the street to help you. You know exactly who I'm talking about. The friend who only calls when they need something. The ex who keeps you on the hook as their backup plan. The family member who treats you like an emotional landfill. You know they're toxic. Everyone around you knows they're toxic. But you keep them anyway because being alone scares you more than being disrespected. Epictetus would teach that we don't control other people, only our responses. And your response has been to accept crumbs and call it a relationship. To rationalize behavior you'd never tolerate if you actually valued yourself. You've become so comfortable with dysfunction that healthy connections feel wrong. Here's the part that hurts. Every minute you spend on someone who doesn't value you is a minute stolen from someone who would, including yourself. You're not being loyal, you're being a coward. And loyalty to people who harm you isn't a virtue, it's self-destruction with an inspirational quote slapped on it. The Stoic move is to detach. Not the cold kind, the wise kind. The kind that says, I loved what we had, but I love myself more. The kind that releases people without bitterness, understanding that some people are lessons, not lifetime companions. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that everything is temporary. Clinging to what's already dead doesn't resurrect it. It just means you're haunting your own past instead of building your future. Practically, unfollow. Block if necessary. Stop checking their social media like you're conducting FBI surveillance. Stop crafting imaginary conversations where they finally realize your worth. They won't. And even if they do, it'll be long after you've moved on to a life that doesn't include their chaos. Let go. Not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve freedom. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, smash that like button. The last one is where your final deliverance is. 7. Forgiveness isn't optional. It's the only way out. You're dragging around guilt from 3 years ago like it's a designer handbag, replaying mistakes on a loop like a masochist with a remote control, punishing yourself daily for things you can't change, convinced this makes you accountable. It doesn't. It makes you stuck. Seneca wrote that holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Same goes for shame, for regret, for that thing you said in 2019 that nobody else remembers but you've immortalized in your personal horror film. The past doesn't care. The person you hurt probably moved on. The only person still bleeding is you. Self-forgiveness isn't pretending it didn't happen. It's extracting the lesson without wearing the shame as a permanent uniform. It's saying, I did that. I learned from it. I'm different now. That's it. That's the entire process. But you overcomplicate it because on some level you believe suffering is how you pay for mistakes. It's not. Suffering is just suffering. Growth is what you do after you stop punishing yourself. Marcus Aurelius knew that regret is just arrogance in disguise. The arrogance of believing you could have known better with the information you had at the time. You couldn't. You made the best decision you could with who you were then. That person doesn't exist anymore. Practical forgiveness is your way out. Write down what you're holding on to. Read it out loud. Then ask yourself, if my best friend did this exact thing, would I want them to suffer forever? The answer is no. So why are you giving yourself a life sentence? Forgive yourself. Not because you deserve it, though you do, but because holding on to it is stopping you from becoming who you're meant to be. And that person on the other side of forgiveness? They're worth meeting. Everything we've talked about comes down to one principle. The world will treat you exactly how you treat yourself. If you ignore your needs, they will too. If you violate your own boundaries, they'll sprint right through them. But if you set the standard, protect your energy, and value yourself above all else, you teach everyone exactly what you deserve. Loving yourself more than anyone else doesn't mean you stop loving others. It means you finally love from strength instead of desperation. It means you stop chasing approval from people who wouldn't chase you. It means your happiness isn't built on validation from strangers. It's built on evidence that you keep your word to yourself. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And mastery begins with self-love, the disciplined kind, the kind that says no when it needs to, the kind that keeps promises even when nobody's watching. So here's my challenge. Stop waiting for permission to love yourself. Stop postponing it until you lose weight, get the promotion, or find the relationship. Love yourself now, in the chaos, with the flaws, with the history. Because when you do, every goal you chase comes from abundance instead of desperation. Every relationship you build comes from choice instead of need. And you'll finally understand what the Stoics knew thousands of years ago. Self-respect is the foundation of everything worth having, not for me, for you. Subscribe if you're serious about this path. And comment with your location one more time. I want to see how far this message traveled and who's actually ready to do the work. The relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for every other connection in your life. Treat yourself like someone you're proud to know. Protect yourself like someone you actually care about. Invest in yourself like someone you believe in completely. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. Now go live it.